All right, so we've got some really interesting articles here all about something called model collapse in AI.
Yeah, it's a pretty big concern in the AI world right now.
Definitely seems like one of those things we should try to understand better.
Yeah.
Kind of like almost a sci-fi idea,
Yeah.
you know? Like AI imploding on itself or something.
Well, maybe not quite as dramatic as that, but yeah, it could have a huge impact on how reliable AI is in the future.
So, model collapse.
Mm.
What is it exactly? I mean, break it down for me like I'm five. No offense to my non-technical brain.
None taken. Basically, think about those large language models, like GPT-4. Everyone knows about those, right? They're trained on these massive data sets.
Right, huge amounts of data.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And initially, all that data was like pure human stuff,
Yeah.
books, articles, code, all that. And that's what made these AI so good in the first place.
So like we're talking like Shakespeare mixed in with like cat memes from the internet.
Yeah.
That kind of variety.
Exactly. That's the key. But here's where the problem starts. As AI generates more and more content itself, that stuff ends up online too, right?
Sure, it's everywhere.
And it gets scooped up into the new data sets that are used to train the next generation of AI.
Okay, I see where this is going.
So now imagine you've got this new AI model, and it's learning from data that includes outputs from older AIs. So it's not purely human knowledge anymore.
It's like a copy of a copyright. Like the quality degrades each time.
Exactly. And that's basically what model collapse is. The new AI starts learning from this potentially distorted output from previous AIs. And it creates this feedback loop where the quality keeps getting worse.
Makes sense, I guess. Like if a chef only learned to cook from recipes written by other chefs who'd only learned from other chefs, eventually you'd get some really weird dishes.
Perfect analogy. You lose that connection to the original source, the real deal. In AI, that means less creativity, less diversity, and ultimately less reliable outputs.
And this Forbes article you sent mentioned some pretty scary possibilities,
Yeah.
like customer service chatbots just spitting out garbage responses or financial forecasts getting all messed up.
Yeah, exactly. Because if the AI is trained on increasingly inaccurate data, its decisions become less reliable too. Imagine your AI assistant giving you terrible advice because it's lost touch with how humans actually behave.
Or your investment app telling you to buy all the wrong stocks. Yikes,
Right, so that's why model collapse is something we need to pay attention to.
for sure. So how do we know if it's already happening? Are there like warning signs we can look out for?
It's tough to spot in the early stages. It's kind of a gradual decline, not like a sudden crash or anything. But researchers are looking for things like, well, for one, if the AI starts generating stuff that's just too similar, too generic, lacking that spark you'd expect from a human.
So less, wow, that's amazing, and more, oh, this feels like I've seen this a million times before.
Yeah, exactly. Another sign is if the AI struggles with unusual scenarios or things that require a really nuanced understanding, stuff that humans are still much better at.
Okay, so we've established model collapse is bad news. But is there anything we can do about it? Or is it just inevitable?
Oh, it's definitely not hopeless. There are some things we can do to fight back. One of the most important is focusing on high-quality human data. You remember how we talked about those early AIs having an advantage?
Because they were trained on all that pure human stuff before the AI-generated content started taking over.
Exactly. So we need to find ways to keep feeding these models fresh, diverse, authentic human data, even as the AI stuff gets more prevalent. Kind of like giving the AI a healthy diet.
Makes sense. What else can we do?
Transparency is huge. The Forbes article talks about how AI developers need to be more open about where their data comes from and how they're training these models.
So we can avoid accidentally contaminating the data sets with AI-generated content.
Right, knowing the source of the data is key for quality control.
Okay, so data quality transparency. Anything else?
The last thing is, and this might sound a bit counterintuitive, but we can combat model collapse by incorporating resets into the training process.
Resets, what does that mean?
Basically, periodically retraining the AI models on fresh human-generated data, like giving the AI a mental palate cleanser every now and then.
So it remembers what real human output is supposed to look and feel like.
Exactly. Helps to keep it grounded in human reality.
Interesting. So it sounds like addressing model collapse requires this multi-pronged approach, focusing on data quality transparency and these regular resets.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a simple fix, but it's definitely something we need to be thinking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, this is all super fascinating. Maybe we should take a look at some real-world examples of how model collapse might be playing out and explore some potential solutions in more detail.
Okay.
So you mentioned real-world examples. Where are we seeing this model collapse thing actually happening?
Well, one area that's particularly worrying is medical diagnosis. There is all this hype about using AI to analyze medical images, like X-rays, scans, that kind of thing, to help detect diseases.
Yeah, I've read about that. Seems like it could be huge for catching things early.
Exactly.
Right.
But now imagine an AI model that's been trained to spot, let's say, cancerous tumors, and it starts experiencing model collapse.
Oh, wow.
It might start missing subtle signs that a human doctor would pick up on, or even misinterpret images entirely.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty scary.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about people's lives here.
Exactly. The stakes are incredibly high, and it just shows how important it is to not just get caught up in all the excitement about AI, but to also be aware of the potential downsides.
For sure. So let's say I'm an AI developer and I'm really worried about this model collapse thing.
Yeah.
What are some practical steps I can take to prevent it?
Well, the first thing is being super careful about the data you use to train your models. You can't just grab whatever's out there online. We need that high-quality human data to counteract all the AI-generated stuff that's floating around.
So how do you ensure that quality? Is it just about making sure the data is accurate?
Accuracy is important, of course, but it's not the whole story. You also need to think about diversity. The data has to be representative of the real world, with all its complexities.
Yeah. So like if an AI is only trained on images of fair-skinned people, it might not be able to accurately identify skin cancer in someone with a darker skin tone.
Exactly. That's a great example. Data diversity is crucial for preventing bias in AI, and model collapse can actually make that bias even worse.
Wow, I hadn't thought about it like that.
Yeah.
So it's not just about demographics then?
Right.
Yeah.
You need diversity of content perspectives, experiences. The more well-rounded the AI's education is, so to speak, the better equipped it'll be to handle different situations and avoid those model collapse pitfalls.
This makes me think about those resets you talked about earlier.
Mm.
Is that something you should do on like a regular schedule, or is it more case by case?
It really depends. There's no one-size-fits-all answer. It depends on the type of AI model, how quickly the data is changing, the consequences of getting things wrong. But the general idea is to periodically retrain the model on a fresh batch of human data, kind of like a refresher course to keep it grounded in reality.
It doesn't get lost in its own little AI world.
Exactly.
All this talk about data and retraining makes me wonder if there's still a role for humans in all this. Can we just leave it all up to the algorithms?
Oh, absolutely not. Human oversight is essential. AI is a powerful tool, but it's still just a tool. We need humans to provide guidance, set boundaries, make sure it's being used responsibly.
So it's not about replacing humans with AI. It's about finding ways for them to work together.
Exactly. And that collaboration is key to mitigating the risks of model collapse and making sure AI is a force for good in the world.
I have to say, so dear listener, as we wrap up our deep dive into model collapse, we want to leave you with this. What role do you see AI playing in the future? And how can we work together to make sure it benefits all of humanity? Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the world of AI. Until next time, happy diving.